On today's episode, we're going to fix the problem with having no accessory with the key. It gets real annoying when you put a key in the set hole there and you turn it backwards and you want to listen to your tunes and you can't do it. It gets kind of annoying. You don't want to leave the key in the on position, and a fuel pump hums. You got everything else powered up. You have a dead battery, then you're on the side of the road and then you're in trouble. So we're going to fix that today. It's probably going to be a simple one, I'm sure. And then maybe we will take the factory subwoofer that we've got as part of a, I don't want to say a kit, but it's all the factory components to put the factory subwoofer option in this car, which mounts, maybe you can even get up under there, right about there. So the ported box mounts there with the subwoofer. I've got the subwoofer, but it is, like typical of all other ones, especially that are as old as they are, the cone on the outside, the foam cone the foam surround is completely rotted out. So we're going to redo that, restore that speaker, get it back to functioning, and shouldn't have a problem. Can't wait to get it all in here. I got to get this out to be able to do it because the switch mounts right there. The performance sound switch with the gain slider adjuster, very similar to the Firebirds. Similar style system anyway, functions the same way. And then it'll just plug into that. So let's get on to that. Let's do it, shall we? All right, back in the Fiero. So here's another problem you might come across. Notice the radio's not on, but the key is in the accessory position. Doesn't matter how far you try to turn this thing back, we get nothing. Normally, when this happens, the ignition switch, okay, let me see if I can try to not throw the camera all over the place, huh? Let's try not to do that. So, as I throw it all over the place. So going from the lock cylinder here, it goes into a gear, which goes into a rack assembly, which goes to a rod that runs down under the column under here, is where the actual ignition switch is. All this is a lock cylinder. It's just a tumbler. The ignition switch is down here. So, and there's a rod that pushes and pulls a slider mechanism inside that switch. And then there's a bunch of spade terminals that determine what gets shut off, what gets turned on, stuff like that. So usually there's like 2 screws, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've taken apart one of these. So we're going to do that. We're going to pull this cover off. And those 2 screws can get loose and the switch can slightly move. So when this is turned all the way back, it's not quite pushing that rod or pulling the rod to the right slot so that the switched accessory spade terminal supplies power, which is why the radio's not coming on. So let's pull this cover off and I'll try to bring you in when I get this cover off. This cover is so easy to get off. There's a couple screws you got here, here, and here, and one more right there. Pull those 4, this whole cover comes off. It's actually a little bit loose. And then now the ignition switch should be exposed. So let me grab that and let's get that off and I'll get you in there and we'll see what we find. Okay, the cover is off. And, oh man. So the ignition switch, can't see it right now. There's all those connectors still. These wires actually go to it. It's on top of the column. Like I said, it's been a while. So there are 2 bolts here. One there and one obviously on that side right there. So we're going to remove those, lower the column down and see if this thing is loose. Something's definitely happened. We know somebody's been in here, so who knows what they did at some point. But these Saginaw tilt columns are all pretty much similar across GM in the 80s. They're not exactly the same, but they're very, very, very similar. So yeah, let's get this column dropped down and we'll bring you in and see if maybe it's just a loose switch. Okay, column is down. You can't get to the ignition switch bolts, so I'm gonna have to take these 2 bolts out to get this clamp off. But the ignition switch bolts are here, and you can see the stud kind of sticking out down there, which also holds the interlock, the safety interlock cable, which attaches to this, which is the ignition switch. You cannot, if the key isn't in the off position, you won't be able to put the car in park. Because that cable won't be in its correct position. So there's a cable that runs from that all the way to here. So when this is turned into the off position, it allows that to be in a certain position. You can put that into park. You won't be able to pull the cable or the key out because you can't get the switch in the right position. So what we're going to do, I got to get the bracket off so I can get to those bolts. I see that there's junkyard markings right there. This column has been replaced, which was kind of a suspicion I had of mine. I find that strange. Because it's in good shape. I mean, the one they took out of whatever junkyard they took it out of was in good shape. So we're going to try to get this out of here and adjust this correctly to where I can put it into accessory, the radio and everything comes on like it's supposed to, and yet you can still start it with no issues. So let me get to getting those 2 screws. See, I can't get to that one with that bracket in the way. Probably get to with the 9/32 open-end wrench, but for some reason I can't find mine, so and the socket won't fit. So we'll just remove the bracket and I can get to it with no problem. And then we'll readjust it. I'll be right back. All right, that's exactly what it is. So you can see the witness marks. If I can get in there a little bit closer, how far off they're gonna be. So I held the key into the accessory position, grabbed this once it was loose, and just pulled it back until it went click. As soon as it clicked, the radio came on, and it's on now. So I did have to remove this nut, and this is your dimmer switch for your headlights. So I just had to kind of just twist it out of the way, just get it out of your way. You don't have to remove it. We're gonna put it back on because I may have to adjust it too. Readjust it, I should say. Maybe not, we'll see. It might be okay. So, let's see here. Oops, I'm hitting buttons all over the place now on the radio. Still works? Yep, it works. All right, cool. So, let me tighten this one. That's the wrong size. I should probably find the right size socket, huh? Let me just snug that. There we go. Yeah, because I may have to readjust this. I think the ignition switch is okay, but that might not be. So let's find out. Snug that. Right. Still clicks. Cool. Still feels good. All right, cool. So let's get everything back together, get this column back up, and button it up. I don't know if that's another project, but yeah, this one's a fun one because everything's so tightly packed in here. And thank God the Fiero is easy to get to and easy to work on. Some cars are a nightmare. But yeah, it's these two here. So and these two do adjust this switch. They also adjust this. And they can both move independent of each other. So if you've got, like if your high beams aren't working, you pull the switch and they click, but it doesn't flash them. It doesn't actually do anything. It's probably that either the switch is bad, you have a wiring problem possibly, or these two are just not adjusted. You loosen those, you adjust this to where it still clicks, and it has a good feel in your stock. You'll know, anybody who's ever used a high beam, they obviously know how it feels. So you can just kind of go by feel, and then you'll tighten these two back down. Make sure that this is, you can put it in accessory, off, and then obviously run and start. You'll feel it. When mine was so far off, which explains why it was off, because this column was changed, and they probably never adjusted it. As soon as I pulled this back while holding the key and accessory, it just made a click, and as soon as it made that nice click feel, everything started to work and is functioning. So I'll get this all buttoned up, get it all back together, and I'll show you the finished. And it's all back together. So now, turns back, it makes a nice click, kind of falls into place. Oh, look at that, we got lights. And it works. Works just fine. Car fires off, runs the way it should. Everything's good to go. The headlight dimmer still works. Everything works just the way it should. And this feels a lot better now when it actually goes into all of its positions. It kind of has that like detent that it has that it's supposed to have, you know. So it's working just fine. I mean, everything's great now. So there's that one done. Now let's get the let's work on that subwoofer a little bit, huh? Yeah, let's get on that. All right, back on the Pegasus and the Fiero project. Oh, there's some stuff's on there. Nice. So here's the subwoofer that mounts under the passenger. Oh, right about, it's going to end up going right there. Obviously the box isn't there right now. So let's zoom in again. What we need to do is either replace this, because you can kind of see it. There's a piece of foam in there, and it's rotted out all the way around. You can totally see through it. So like I was saying with the front dash speakers, this happens a lot. So this one obviously isn't from the UV hitting it, but it's just from age. It's foam, and it's just going to rot out from the ozone, stuff like that. So what we're going to do is kind of slice a little bit around here with a razor blade. That's what that's for. We're going to go around here and break loose the adhesive that's been on here for, almost 40 years. And we should be able to break this loose and get this ring and this whole cover to just pop straight up so that I can get to the cone inside here. I got to measure this pretty close. I'm pretty sure this is a 5 1/4 subwoofer. I know my Trans Am takes 5s, but this is an original out of the original sub box that goes in the Fiero. So we're gonna get that out of there. I'm gonna pop this up and get inside, outside measurements and where the adhesive and stuff has to go, so I can get new cones, or new, I shouldn't call them cones, surrounds. The cone I think is fine on this. We'll find out when we get it apart. It looks like it though. I don't see any tears or anything in it. Hopefully the voice coil works. If not, I mean, hey, spend a couple bucks putting it together, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I have not tested the speaker yet. The terminals look a little rough. I think I'm going to solder a new connector onto these anyway, and seal it back up and then get it back into the sub box. So yeah, let me slice this loose and try to get this off without breaking it. I've had success doing it before for doing the factory subwoofer option in my 84 Trans Am. So this ought to be fun. They're not too bad. The adhesive on these is actually pretty weak after all these years. Honestly, it looks like it's moving a little bit. All right, let me get the knife here and you go around it just a little bit. You don't want to go crazy because you don't want to cut into this because it is plastic. And you don't want to break the blade off, obviously, in there because it's just a regular razor blade. So you got to be kind of ginger with it as you're going around. So let me get that off of there and see you in a second. Okay, I've gone all the way around it, maybe twice, just real lightly. Once you can kind of start to feel it kind of just glide through, then you know, stop. Because then you're cutting into the plastic. I'm gonna try, I don't know, I guess it really doesn't matter. See if I can, oh, it's gonna be hard to do with, once again, with the hand situation. So we're gonna have to try to do this the hard way. Maybe I don't have to use my other hand after all. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so, yeah, there it is. All right, now I'm just gonna slide this around. There it goes. You can hear it popping loose a little bit. See, this glue is pretty old. It's been on here for a long time. You usually don't have too much of a problem getting these off without damaging them, because these speakers are not available anymore, and I'm pretty sure getting an aftermarket one. There we go. Yeah, a little bit left, but there it is. Some of the foam still on it, no big deal. I'll clean all that off of there, and we're going to put this back on. We're going to reuse that. But yeah, see that? This is what happens to speakers when they get old. There's your foam surround. It is trashed. So we're going to get all of this cleaned up. I'll get all of that off of there. I need to take precise measurements of this. Yeah, see, it's still, you can't hear it. So if this was not centered, you would kind of hear it rubbing inside the magnet of the speaker, which, a bunch of garbage in there. You don't hear it. It's, yeah, and it feels real smooth. So I need to keep this centered. You can't move this around, because if you try to put a new surround on this with this off-centered, it isn't going to work, and it's going to sound horrible. Don't ask how I know. So experience will tell you that you have to make sure this is perfectly centered. So I might even take some measurements just to make sure that it's centered. But get a couple measurements now to make sure if what cones I need to, or what surround I need to order. I'll get that ordered. The magic of editing will come back, and I'll show you how to re-adhere it the proper way. You don't just use silicone or super glue or something like that. There is a very specific kind of adhesive that can take the heat, the vibration, and it will attach to the cone material and the metal. And then we can use a little bit of adhesive on this. Pop that back on, good to go. Especially once I get a connector on it. And then I'll get the amp installed. In the Fiero, the factory amplifier is directly behind here, which I have to fix this too anyway. So a lot of this has got to come out. I haven't straightened all this out yet. The rest of the vinyl's still good. This has got to be done. But the amplifier sits in here behind the skeleton of what's in the console. Is a giant plastic like skeleton frame, and there is a pocket in here that the amplifier just slides right into. So, and I do have an uncut factory harness. So this car's getting the full upgrade basically. And yes, I do have to take the headliner out because we got to recover it anyway to replace this, because right here is where your subwoofer switch mounts, and we got to have that. So, or the gain switch, I should say. So we'll get that in. Let me go ahead and order up a surround for this, and when that gets here, I'll show you that, and we'll do an unboxing, and we'll get the speaker repaired. Okay, back in the Fiero here. So I was talking about how we were going to rebuild this surround. So I've removed the adhesive all the way around, the stuff that holds the grill, or I guess you want to call it a grill, a little paper type grill that goes down, that covers this. I've removed what's left of the paper, or the foam surround, and the new one has finally come in. So it looks, I'll just speak right a little bit there. It looks like this, pretty much like you'd expect it to look. So this fits just like that. So there's a special adhesive that you have to use to adhere this to the metal and to this, and good thing it comes with it. So we're going to use that. So let me get this prepped, and get this on there, and then I'll show you what it looks like when you just set it on. But really all you basically do is, this has got to be completely dry, and you can have any like oils or grease or nothing on it, so I'm going to use a little bit of wax and grease remover just to make sure that it's good, so this got something good to stick to. Same thing around the edge of the speaker here, because you see this fits perfectly inside the metal, and then you can see how much it wraps into this. This has also got to be floating dead center in the middle of the speaker itself, because if it's not, you'll have some major issues. So let me get that on there, and I'll show you what that looks like. And there it is. So it didn't take long. It's been, I don't know, probably 10 minutes or so. Try to get it in the sun a little bit there, but yeah, see, just kind of pushed it down. You can actually kind of see where I pushed down with that tool. So here's what they do. They give you a brush. They kind of want you to put this on, or the adhesive on this, and then just kind of brush it on. It's a little harder to do, and most of the time you don't need to do that. I do use the end of this brush to kind of go around and just push it down to make sure that it's flat and even, which is probably why you see a couple, yeah, you see a couple of marks right there of adhesive, but that'll come right off. It's no big deal. It is down pretty tight. I could just put the cover on it and smash it down kind of hard, and I don't really want to do that. But as you can see, it's on there, and it looks pretty good. Now I just got to let it cure, and then come back and double check everything, and then put the cover back on it. But there you go, factory Fiero subwoofer. Almost fully restored. Got to put the cover on, and I got to put connectors on it because I don't know what happened there. That was kind of how I got it. It's pretty beat, but I'll resolder some wires on there and build a harness. But yeah, there you go. So why throw it away or try to find a new one? Because this is a goofy size. 5 1/4 is a really weird size for a subwoofer. That's not common at all. You can find 5s all day long, but 5 1/4 is a little tough. So I'm glad this was at least in decent shape. I still haven't tried it to make sure it functions, but for the amount of work I've got into this, it's totally worth the effort of at least trying to rebuild it first. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that nasty pile of old stuff. That's the stuff there. That's the stuff that came out of it. And here you go. Look at that. Not bad, huh? Fully restored, other than the wiring I still got to do. But see, now you can kind of see through it, and I forget the light did it right. You can see it's completely surrounded now. The adhesive worked phenomenal. This stuff is awesome, so not bad. And you use the same adhesive to put down that plastic ring with the grill, that mesh over it, and it holds it down with no problem. I mean, I've done I don't know how many this way. The only bad thing I can say, if it's even that, is that when you go to buy these surrounds, you have to buy them in pairs. And since the Fiero only has one subwoofer, I guess I got a spare. So yeah, but there it is, ready to rock. Now we're going to get this thing into the box and get the box in the car and have everything go. So that should be fun, so stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll start tearing a headliner out and get the harness mounted up in there now. That'll be fun. For reference, here's the rest of the subwoofer system we're retrofitting into this car, because it didn't originally have it, but it is a factory option, so I kind of wanted to get it in there. But you got your amplifier. This is a mostly uncut harness, minus just these 2 wires, which I will repair. The overhead console is different because of the performance sound switch. As you can see, it's not just an easily removable switch, it's a whole bank. So this will get restored, obviously, new lamps and everything, and that'll go into the overhead. And then you've got the harness that goes up the A-pillar into this, and then your stereo harness, which is that and that. Basically, it just kind of pinches in between the radio and the harness that's already in the car, and it's almost a self-contained system. It's powered by itself. This is the subwoofer box, the ported box. I do have the grill, and obviously we've got the speaker, as we've just rebuilt that. So the speaker mounts here, and then the grill goes over it. So we're going to get all this in the car exactly the way the factory did it, and routed the same. I'm not going to do it today. It seems to be a little chilly out here. The weather just can't decide if it wants to break or not. So, but this is where we're at. We got the whole system. The speaker is now rebuilt. I believe this amplifier works. We're going to find that out, obviously, the hard way. And we're going to get all this in and route it the way the factory did, so the car came with it. So, yeah, that's going to be next on the agenda. Can't wait to get it in there and hear how it sounds compared to the system without a subwoofer. But yeah, if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys soon.